Before going further, because I found Teal Swan mentioned that alignment is really important, and I've just been beating the crap out of myself for not doing, like, taking the action on little shit that is going to actually make my life better, and finding that I'm processing and I'm still having to do like what my soul agreements are doing, but without the support that is allotted to me to have the ability to do this. And some of that is my own fault, and some of that is due to my parts, which is not, it's not an accident. That was offered to a few individuals as a challenge in a game. Like, this is how crazy I feel like God, like if you feel like God's a docile, or even Jesus or Christ consciousness for that matter is a docile, unwitted existence, it's not. Like, to the point where I'm like realizing like, whoa, sitting on my hands and doing my best to share with people who may be affected by their own circumstances around this stuff. And that's kind of what I realized is the aspects of my calling, my life, were presented, and it was presented as a choice to assist and cultivate or run into the type, like the Squid Game, basically, like a type of endeavor that people can scrap for. It brought out people in their true colors, for sure. I definitely got aspects of me that I know need a lot of work, because I'm still in that phase of where I was supposed to be in, if working this in a high, like a spirituality as we know it, dominant way. So I really want to feel sorry for myself around this. However, I do recognize and remind myself every day the freedom that I have to create with such powerful information and gifts. One of the things that, and how I get to tie in everyday life into this. This is something that we don't have. We don't have a template of actually interweaving how we take care of ourselves on a fundamental level with spirituality. And might I add how important that really is. And if you require demographics to do little to nothing in your communities, it is important that you understand that we are moving into a time where neglect in that way, abuse in that way is not acceptable.
I need to tell you this.
Cadence, I told you we're not going to have internet for a few days. We just moved.
Like, it goes internet. Watch it.
You're joking with me, aren't you?
No, Cadence. No, I'm really not.
How many days has it been? You said it would have been only like 3 days.
Cadence, it's only been 2 hours.
No, watch it.
2 hours.
Cadence, I told you we do not have any internet.
Today's like the worst.
So one of the things that I really wanted to bring
I think the cable man's here.
to your attention
Internet. I want internet.
around that
I want
is
internet.
the idea of the cosplay around
What are you
witchcraft
doing?
and
My
how
stuff's mom since we decided to move to the Stone Ages. Yep, he's here. He pulled up. He's on his way in. What's a new Wi-Fi password?
Cadence,
Watch this one too.
okay, I'm busy. So one of the things that I realized with it's my inner child, man. That I feel like my granddaughter represents that part of me that just wants to play and is like, there's a consistent like, well, let's make this fun. However, it is important to me to have a baseline understanding because there was so much misunderstanding around my care, my representation, my allotment, and just in the unseen stuff. And I was able to catch what was actual feedback that was mine because of it. And my digital footprint is like I'm really interested in spirituality, and I was exploring that online. And so that's what people played off of. And because I was listening to this stuff passively for a long time, especially when I felt overwhelmed and couldn't handle my emotions, I would listen to things like Abraham Hicks. What is it? There's another one. I was curious about hoodoo and all of that, and I can't remember. I would give them props if I remembered who they were. I want to say MEL or something like that. And who else? Towards the end of my passive listening with spiritual based content, it started to become a detriment because of the way that people are playing with that stuff. And it was even like really positively assumed that I was putting spells on a person that I was in a situationship with, and that I was performing those. What came out of that for me was one, how like I realized how fucking powerful my intuition really was. Two, the fact it brought out what these guys were up to and how they really felt about me in that dynamic. At least like what they were willing to do, even if they did have love for me. Like they didn't love me to the point of not putting me in that kind of detriment and having somebody assume that I was doing things like that. And three, how little very like how uninterested they were in even knowing me, and how they did not know me at all. I spent 10 years on and off with these two, and they were not interested in getting to know me. That threw me into a crisis, a personal crisis. And that's why I started posting. And it was also a fulfillment, an idea that I had that I wanted to, at least if I wasn't going to get any of my goals or my intentions or, what I aspire in, I at least wanted to leave for the people my commitment to having a portrayal of what it's really like in the middle of a spiritual awakening, like the reality of the end result of somebody like Bentinho Massaro or Tony Robbins. And I don't even think Bentinho Massaro might not even be an actual depiction, because he actually was cared for very well throughout his life. He started really young. He started doing deprivation meditations and stuff like that. And actually, when I was posting homeless, it did start becoming just something to help me understand how to love that aspect of me that put me in that situation. And it was because I trusted people blindly. So here's the danger of going on somebody's digital footprint to determine if you are going to utilize counteracting spell work to resolve the situation. Using their digital footprint is not a good idea, because a lot of times these practitioners, their videos make you feel better when you are in, they're doing their job. They're making you at the least feel better. Are they giving you the healing? I think eventually you get there, because that's, like, from what I understand about healing, you go through a healing crisis before you come out on the other side. But because this stuff is so mainstream and there's so many people utilizing manifestation and spell work to anchor relationships, and like I realized, like, I think this guy wanted me to like do that to him for the benefit of him and another person. Like, I was like, and I'm laughing now, but like what I went through on all of that, and then on top of that being energetically attacked, and come to find out, like I thought it was because I was so the chosen one. But really, it was because there was, basically a tattletale. He was, telling people that I was putting spells on him to be with him. And if these people knew me, I've even had one guy go to like ceremonies and shit with me. However, in his defense, the ceremonies that we went to, these guys were playing with that energy for the same purposes as well. So, but actually getting to know me, for me, specific person meditation was something that I was exploring, or something that I would listen to in a passive manner because I was reactive in relationships. And for me, it was a total, it aligned with my interest, but it's not a total belief of mine. And what was occurring in, or so I thought, in viewing these videos is the ability to respond, or to sit with, or to, maybe, do self-care, initiate self-care for myself when I am feeling down and low in these relationships, or in the battle of the relationships that I seem to want to get hung up or caught up on. And so that's reasons why I share, is to just assist with, because we have a large amount of hypervigilant, people who are doing hypervigilant activities, but it's for the benefit of reward. This is where they get sloppy, and this is where people are getting hurt. And this is where it's no longer a balanced, it's no longer a balanced or an activity of benefit. Is when you got people, not only, for one, you have people who are, basically you're doing the same things as those that you're reprimanding. A lot of people assume that if they just had somebody else do it, it wouldn't track them. However, the God in that is, once you start utilizing on, even that exchange, paying somebody, asking somebody to do certain things for you, This is where we get our code and our expression of such. You still have to request that. You still have to have an energetic request around that. This is where God gets it. This is where like I realize, oh my God, this is a God thing. This whole technology in portraying spirituality and actually corralling people into having to either heal or face their consequences or face themselves is a God thing. And that's what I realized, like it wasn't all in vain for me. I don't feel that, like I feel that I do have to voice what had occurred and voice where I really am at and how I really feel about soul and spell work. But it aligns with my purpose of having that baseline understanding or integration of my like of spiritual practices in my lifestyle, figuring out what that looks like, seeing if I even like that. And I basically was operating in these last 3 years with such a tattered, brokenness. And that whole time I was saying, you mended my heart. You mended my heart. Because the only reason why this is affecting me is because I had respect for what you do and what you say and how you do it. And it was like disturbing and shocking to understand that these people didn't know me to the point where like they fabricated stories about my involvement or the type of involvement with my spirituality that was disheartening. But I really did mend something within me that was being targeted by more than just them. For the benefit, and it was for punitive like reasons, you know what I mean, like the reasons they have to struggle to come up with excuses as to why I was a target in that way. And it also brought to the light how ancestrally or old school or classically some of these people made up like the chosen one stories, like they were so good and they're so believable. But it brought to my attention how they made it up for so long and it worked for so long, even they don't remember that it's a fucking lie. Because that's what they were doing. They were interweaving elements of the truth that made that shit believable. And if you are actually, so I've been around quote unquote chosen types of energies in a ceremonial setting, and that's not something to fuck with. Because you connect so well with elements. You literally are bending the air. Like the one guy I know, he was putting his hand in scalding hot water. He trusted the elements that much. And that's what this situation has brought to me in my seeking and, my willingness to want to help people on that level to heal. It brought to me like the realization of the power in that and the existence in it. It also brought to me the remembrance and realization as to why I grew up the way that I did, or in the care of who I was in the care of. You know, in Wall Street, like those stories are Practical Magic. All those stories, they're not in. They're entertaining. However, they have a message. And if you kind of like when you're listening to those rhythms or those stories of the guys in Wall Street, there's a lot of suicide going on in that. Personal destruction going on in that. And in that, I'm realizing reasons, you know, it's because like these guys assumed, well, if we just cut this part off and if we deceive people into paying us into doing these things, like it's all good, it's all okay. And it's like some people, you know, like the unaliving of some of that has to do with, that was like their choice and how they were going to deal with that. However, I am starting to have a realization moving forward, and with all this, you know, like how we're innovating technology, people are not going to have that choice anymore to just unalive themselves and avoid it altogether. And what some of the experimental aspects of me is my whole life, even being abused, had to deal with my own karma on a personal level, while maintaining just enough to have the ability to keep, you know, whoever's little fucking domain going. This is what my granddaughter does when I get on here. It's like, it's almost like the read that I get on that is that this is what my inner child is trying to like get, like, because I do this and I try to get so serious about it, and a lot of times I do not do things that are fun. It's so crazy. And because like stuff like this, what I just did, the read on it is like, oh, that's enough for me. Yeah, go ahead.
Take it out.
And really, that's just an awareness that I have to come upon and realize, like, the only reason why I take the bare minimum is because that's it. It literally is a programmed response that was literally beaten into me. So, all just cute. How do you turn this thing off? There we go. So I always laugh and at the chuckle of, because I'm working it out right now, is like, well, because I have really intense feelings of love for a person that really, you know, like did me dirty, but continue, like, from rumors via even avoiding rumors about this person, I catch a slight wind of his, you know, of what's going on with him, or what he's doing, or what his his hoes are doing and shit like that. And it's like, and so like right now I'm questioning that connection. I really am upset that this person assumed I was doing spell work on him to keep him, or to be with him, and to keep him around. And the thing that upsets me about that is that anybody who takes the time to get to know me is going to understand where I came from. Is, you know, like, is enough for, like, it's understandable as to why I would be upset for somebody assuming that that's what I was actually doing. And with that said, in passively listening to spiritual practitioners, occult leaders, stuff like that, thought leaders, it is important. If you are, you know, it is important to, one, treat it like a drug. If you're listening to it to avoid yourself, you know, do something else. Sometimes the other stuff like self-medicating and drinking and stuff may actually be the more easeful way to handle your emotions if you are going to avoid them. I highly advise against listening to sometimes even motivational speakers to feel better. Don't do it to feel better. Do it in an active manner where you are actually hearing the words that are coming out of the mouth.